Welcome to Module 3, Lesson 8 of the AMZ Affiliate Bootcamp, and in this lesson, we will be talking about how you can outsource your content creation using the website Upwork. Now, there's more than one good source of good content creators, which is why in the next lesson, we'll talk about a different source as well, called Textbroker. Upwork, however, is the largest option and the most popular, so let's dive into the details of using Upwork. First off, what is Upwork? In case you're not familiar with Upwork, let me briefly tell you what it is. You might also know it by the name Elance or Odesk, but both of these companies a couple years back were actually merged to form a massive job marketplace that connects freelancers with small companies all over the world like us. You can hire for different types of positions like writers, designers, programmers, etc. And unlike other job sites, these types of positions that are posted there are often tailored towards people who are interested specifically in remote work or hiring or working in a different country, for example, and often for short-term or part-time work. In this case, we're going to be using them as needed over time, and Upwork is a great option for that. Now, there are pros and cons to Upwork, which is true of any platform, but let's talk about some of those to see if it's going to be a good fit for your approach and your work style and your needs. So first off, the pros are that it's one of the biggest marketplaces. It's absolutely massive. It's one of the biggest perks of using Upwork is it's a massive marketplace with a ton of options for basically any position you could ever want to hire for. So you'll have a huge range of writers to choose from, which will give you the flexibility to choose people with the writing style, the cost, location, work schedule, or whatever criteria you want to go for. Now, there's a flip side to that, which we'll be talking about in a second. But first, let's go through the second major pro for Upwork. The second major advantage of Upwork is that you get to work with and also get to know your writers individually. So that's the advantage of this kind of model. And this is compared with working with an agency, for example, where you might work with the agency and the agency hires writers that work for you, but you never actually directly connect with those people who are doing the writing. It's not essential that you do, but if it's important to you that you get to know the people on your team that are doing your writing, then Upwork might be a good option for you. Now, there are also some downsides, as I mentioned. It's not all fun and games with Upwork. So let's talk about some of the downsides of Upwork. First, you have the process of vetting, which can be a pain. So this is the first main challenge, and it's a byproduct of having such a large pool of talent, because you have to find the good ones, which can sometimes feel like a needle in a haystack. A second major consideration is that price and quality vary considerably between writers. So there's a wide flexibility in what you can go for, but that means there's also going to be a corresponding variance, which can be frustrating in terms of reliability and quality of work. So again, that can take more time and effort and due diligence to find the good people that are still affordable, but also do good quality work. And finally, you can also end up wasting time chasing down writers for deadlines or just dealing with some hassle because basically what's going to happen is that when you're first on this platform, you'll be tempted to go for the lowest cost provider, and that means they're probably going to be less reliable, lower quality work. You're going to have to train them a bit, and even if you go with somebody more experienced, it's still going to be true. So you'll sometimes have to chase people down for deadlines or bug them to fix mistakes and otherwise deal with low performance. It doesn't happen with everybody, but you will probably deal with this at least once, and it can be a bit of a frustration. So okay, let's say you've decided that you want to hire a writer off Upwork. And actually, as I'll be talking about shortly, I recommend that you get started by hiring one person from Upwork and one person from Textbroker in order to compare. So let's walk you through the step-by-step process to hiring quality workers from Upwork. So right now, I recommend that you pull the website up now and follow along and pause the video as you need to so you can keep up. Okay, so first off, go to upwork.com and then log in or sign up for a new account if you don't have one already. And then in the members area, click Post Job. Now select the team that you want to hire for, choose the writing category and article and blog writing subcategory. Then name your job posting and describe the work to be done. Your job title should be clear and enticing enough to make sure that the writers want to read more about the position. Think about it sort of like as an email subject headline designed to get people to read your email. The posting headline is similar in that respect. So we recommend putting phrases like ongoing work or earn X dollars per article or similarly compelling phrases in your job title to attract more applicants to your position. Your job description should also be very clear about some specific pieces of information. For example, what's the company that or the organization that you're hiring for? So explaining it maybe a little bit about the Amazon affiliate blog, so they have it in context. Also, how much are you willing to pay? What quality of work are you expecting? And include some examples of the work that you do like, so they can see this in real life. And lastly, how to apply for the job. Make sure that's very clear in the job posting itself. Usually we ask the candidates to send over at least 2 examples of their best work, and we also want to know their answer to the question, why are you the best fit for this position? Because oftentimes you can tell a lot about people and writers in particular by reading their answers, because great writers hopefully know how to impress you with their words as they try and convince you to hire them. And if their answer is not very compelling or interesting or good to read, then they're probably not going to be a very good writer if you hire them. Then we ask the writer to bid at a small amount for a trial job so we can test their skills before sending them more work. And don't worry if you're still not sure how to write a good description for the job posting. We've included a template under this video. Now, as you continue on to fill out the position description and settings, go down to the settings and select ongoing work, because we want to hire writers to write for our website long term. And then check on the box that says I need to hire more than one freelancer, and put the number 2 in the field, because we'll probably want to hire at least 2 writers so that we can always have a backup in case one writer gets sick or can't deliver on time, and also in case one falls off quite quickly, which sometimes happens when you initially hire people. Then you need to enter the skills needed for the position. So for this example, we have blog writing, content writing, article writing, copywriting, internet research, the basic kind of skills you want your content writer to have. Next, on rate and availability, choose pay a fixed price for how would you like to pay. Choose intermediate for desired experience level, so we can get a mix of experience and value. And then under budget, enter a small amount, which is enough for 1 trial article. Then just click Post Job to finish the process. Next, you're going to want to wait about 24 hours before coming back, and then you'll start seeing all of the applications that have come in. Now, you can see on this job posting, we have 13 applicants over 3 days. It's time to start reviewing each applicant one by one. First off, we're going to want to remove all the applicants that have a couple red flags. One is having a job success rate of less than 80%. And some writers may not have a job success rate listed because they're new to the platform. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad candidates. In fact, sometimes new writers are willing to write for a lower rate, even if they're a higher quality writer, because they want to build up their profile. If that's the case, check their examples. And again, the main thing is reviewing their sample work and the trial job and see if you like what you see. Sometimes you might find a nice little gem in the application pool. But if they have a listed job success rate that has a number and it's lower than 80, sometimes you just want to even go with 90. Just don't even go there. It will not be worth it. And the next major criteria is to make sure that they're native English speakers, which should be listed in their application. And then there's one exception, which is that Filipinos are kind of native English speakers, kind of not native. They natively sort of speak half English, half Tagalog. But their writing is generally quite good, because even though they sort of natively speak English, their English that they do speak is very, very, very high quality, especially compared with lots of other potential applicants from other Asian countries, or like for India, for example. And finally, if they don't include writing samples, that's an immediate no-go. So, you can see on the screen right now, here's an example of somebody who's not from a native English-speaking country, very, very low success rate. Also, just generally speaking, in my experience at least, applicants from countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, kind of those areas, generally are more problematic. There's, of course, always exceptions to the rule, but out of the wide variety of people that I've hired from a large number of countries, they tend to be a little bit higher chance of something going wrong. Not a hard criteria, just personal experience to relate to you, so you can keep it in mind. Whereas Filipinos are generally pretty consistent, and of course, if you have a native English-speaking country, usually they're pretty professional as well. Next, you're going to want to click on each profile and review each profile carefully and the application, and check their examples of the work that they submitted. Is the quality up to what you're looking for? Is it a comfortable writing style for you. And also make sure to check their answers to the question, why are you a good fit? And the main thing is to think about, how are they presenting themselves to you? Do they have experience writing in your niche? Is that why they're the best fit? Do they make you feel interested in working with them when you read their answer? These are all good signs. And then just repeat this process until you narrow down the list to only the most qualified writers. Then you're going to want to hire the top 2 to 3 writers without an interview and give them the same trial job of writing one article with the same content prompt. So this might seem kind of like weird instructions, but the reason is you want to hire more than one, because chances are if you hire 2 to 3 people to do a test job, you probably won't like at least one of them. Maybe one will be mediocre and one will be quite good. And the reason why it might also seem weird that we're giving them the same job, and it might sound like quite costly or counterproductive, but in reality it's not. First off, we're not interviewing them, which saves us time. And also that's not really a good approach to hire writers, right? Like, why would you interview somebody and judge the quality of their interviewing, which is verbal, versus they're actually going to be writing as their job, right? That doesn't make sense. So the best way to know their capacity is just to give them a test of their actual writing skills. And then secondly, by giving all writers the same trial job instead of different articles to write, for example, you can very clearly know who's the best by directly comparing their work. Once you got it narrowed down to the best candidate, just hire the best one and give them some more regular work. And you can repeat this process over and over again until you've built up a really solid team of high-quality writers. Great, so now we've gone through the specific process of hiring on Upwork. Let's talk about 4 essential tips for hiring content creators. So as I mentioned, hiring in the right way is extremely important so you don't waste a bunch of time and create a lot of headaches for yourself. And I say that from experience. So let's talk through some essential tips for hiring content creators from Upwork. First, tip number 1, you get what you pay for. You really can't expect good writing at less than 2 cents per word, for example. We recommend paying anywhere from 2 to 3 cents per word if you're just starting out, and paying 5 cents per word generally will get you really experienced writers. What will happen as you go through the process, as I started to mention before, is that you're going to be tempted to hire the cheapest people. You'll probably find lots of people who will work very, very cheap. The minimum available bid on Upwork, people will often put that. And they're oftentimes from places like India or Pakistan or Bangladesh. But what happens if you hire at the bottom of the barrel in terms of pricing, that usually the headache is just not worth the effort and the writing will just be utterly horrible, and you'll spend more time and money and headaches trying to fix low quality results than if you just hired a better quality person from the beginning. Paying for experienced writers is not only worth it, but it's still actually quite cheap. Tip number 2, do not interview. Now, if you've ever done any research into building a team or hiring for a business, they always focus on the importance of interviewing, for example. And here at AMZ Affiliate Bootcamp, we totally agree with this approach in general. However, for writers, don't bother interviewing them. It only makes sense if you were going to maybe hire them for a permanent position, like a single full-time employee. But even then, again, you're judging somebody on their ability to be interviewed versus their ability to be a writer, it's just not necessarily going to coincide. So the method you should use is to ask them for samples of their work. If the samples look good, hire them immediately for one small trial job, say a 1,000-word article, keeping in mind that you do probably have to pay for the trial job. But the idea here is to save lots of time and headaches for yourself rather than spend hours and hours and hours interviewing people. It's the 80-20 of the process. Finally, hire or reject people based on the quality of the trial job. One really important trick here is to focus on their ability to follow instructions. If they submit half-assed work and don't follow the instructions, that's an automatic no-go. If they go above and beyond and clearly have read everything and follow all the instructions perfectly, do a great job, and maybe even go and do something extra, then you know you've got a good hire. And I've had people from both camps, and it's a pretty consistent pattern that if they don't follow the rules, for any reason whatsoever, you'll be tempted to be like, oh, well, maybe they just didn't see it. But inevitably, it's a headache. And if they do go above and beyond, even if they lack the experience or other kinds of credibility, but if they do an amazing job at the trial job, that's usually better than a more credible list of past experience. Tip 3, if you find a good writer, make sure to treat them well. Now, this means that you give them consistent work and basically just don't take them for granted because, again, the process of sorting through all the potential candidates can be a headache. You want to do that as little as possible, so try and keep good people for as long as you can. Tell them when they've done a good job, thank them for their great work, and try and keep in mind who these people really are. People on Upwork are usually good people, oftentimes from developing countries who are trying to support their families, and you have the ability to give them a consistent stream of income, doing something that they enjoy, and as well as giving them a pleasant working experience. That's all up to you. Tip number 4, be patient. Have you noticed this is a recurring theme yet? Patience in business. Here are some essential strategies for staying patient and also why, and getting the most out of your writers without going crazy. First off, most writers won't deliver what you want the first time. It's a learning curve for any position, any employee, anything at all that you hire for, right? It takes some time to learn what you like, what you want, the style that you're going for, etc. Be patient with that. Next, you got to make sure you give detailed feedback so that they know exactly what you do like and what you don't like. And the important point here is to be very specific. If you say, I don't like it, or it's terrible, do it again, then that's extremely disheartening. It'll piss them off. They won't be able to give you what you want. Be very specific, give comparisons, things like that. And then make sure to ask for revisions until you're happy, and never settle for low quality writing, but again, be very specific with what you like and what you don't like. And then finally, be very careful about any tendency to be a type A kind of perfectionist, right? Inevitably, if you're hiring somebody for $3 an hour from the Philippines to write for you, probably will be like 95% perfect once you do these other things, but there'll be some minor mistakes here and there. But if you try and make it 100% perfect, you'll just shoot yourself in the foot, you'll drive yourself crazy, waste lots of time and energy, and both you and your writer will enjoy it a lot less at the end of the day. Awesome. So I hope you've been following along with this process as we've been going through it. Have you gotten your first writer yet? If not, make sure to do that before continuing on. And the next lesson will show you another way to outsource this kind of writing. But a good suggestion would be to try each method and see which approach and which platform ends up panning out for you the best. See you in the next lesson.